So welcome back class. This is the 13th class of NCERT Indian Polity for Foundation Batch Adharshila conducted by Center for Ambition. And today we are beginning with the 5th chapter, which is legislature. And so far we have seen the executive. Okay, we have seen the president, we have seen vice president, we have seen roles of prime minister, council of ministers. So we have seen the election procedure, how the president is elected, how the prime minister is appointed, and we have seen all the executive powers that the president have, and we'll discuss it in detail also. So I'll start with the 5th chapter, which is the legislature. Okay, so by legislature, what do I mean? If you can recall that I have told you the organs of the government before in the previous videos. So we have organs of the government, organs of the government, where I told you that we have 3 organs of the government, which is the legislature, the executive and the judiciary. So we have 3 pillars of the government. We have 3 important organs of the government. What is the work of legislature? The work of legislature is to make laws. The work of executive is to execute laws, or you can say implement laws. Okay. The work of judiciary is to interpret laws. Okay, so whatever the laws that are made by legislature, the executive implements them in the society, and the judiciary interprets them, and it tells you the meaning of the laws. It tells you the provisions, what do they mean, and make you understand the provisions and the laws that are made by the legislature. Okay, so these are the work of organs of the government. We have read the executive part in the 4th chapter, and in this chapter we will be covering the legislature part. Okay. So when I come to the legislature, I talk about the national legislature. Okay, the national legislature, the legislature which is regarded, which is to perform the duty of making laws at the center level. What do we have in India? A body to make laws at the center level is the parliament. So in India we have a parliament which has the duty to make laws at the center level. Okay. Now our Indian Parliament is bicameral in nature. What do I mean by bicameral? When the legislature has two houses, we call it as a bicameral legislature. So in India, at the center level, the national legislature which we have, the Parliament of India, is bicameral in nature. What do I mean by bicameral in nature? It means that it has two houses. The two houses of the Parliament. First is the Lok Sabha, and the second house is the Rajya Sabha. Okay. We also know the Lok Sabha as House of People, and we know the Rajya Sabha as Council of States. Okay. The Lok Sabha is also known as the lower house of the Parliament, and the Rajya Sabha is also known as the upper house of the Parliament. Okay. So when I see the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha at the center level, I see that they represent the entire country. We see that the people have elected their representatives, and these representatives sit in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and they represent the country. Okay, they represent all the sections of the society, they represent all the people in the society. Okay, but their procedure of coming into the government is different. For example, the elections of Lok Sabha is entirely different with the elections of Rajya Sabha. Okay, the Lok Sabha is directly elected, and the Rajya Sabha is an indirect elected body. Okay. Now, when I talk about the Rajya Sabha, I'll take the Rajya Sabha first. Okay. The Rajya Sabha, as I told you, is the Council of States. is the Council of State, is the upper house, and it is also the permanent house of the parliament. Okay, what do I mean by permanent house of the parliament? Because the Rajya Sabha never dissolves, it never dissolves. Okay, it never dissolves. Why? Because the term of the Rajya Sabha is 6 years and 1/3 of the member of Rajya Sabha vacate their seats after every 2 years, and we have new elections for that 1/3 seats which are vacated. So every 2 years, in every 2 years there is 1/3 seat vacated, and the new elections for 1/3 seats are done. Okay, so whoever in the Rajya Sabha, or the 1/3 people who have completed their 6-year period will vacate their seats in every 2 years. Okay, and the new elections for the vacated seat will be held. Now Rajya Sabha, the elections of the Rajya Sabha, how people get elected in the Rajya Sabha, who are the people which are elected in the Rajya Sabha? We see that at the central level we have a national legislature which is the parliament. Okay, at the central level we have a legislature which is the parliament. We also have legislature at the state level. Okay, we have a legislature at the state level which are state legislative assemblies. State legislative assemblies. So these are the legislature which we have at the central level. We also have legislative council. We have legislative council as well. So these are the two houses. We have some states which have both the houses, and we have some states which have only the legislative assemblies. So we can say that in India there are 6 states in India which currently has bicameral legislature, which means that they have both the houses, legislative assembly and legislative council, whereas the other states in India have the unicameral system. The unicameral system, which means that we only have the state legislative assemblies. Okay, now the question comes, how do we elect the people in the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha? How the people represent the entire country? When I talk about the Rajya Sabha, when I talk about the elections of the Rajya Sabha, how the people are elected, so the Rajya Sabha is indirectly elected. First of all, it is indirectly elected, which means that there is no role of people. The role, here we see the role of elected members of state legislative assemblies. So the members of state legislative assemblies elect the people to sit in the Rajya Sabha. So there is indirect elections in the Rajya Sabha, and when we see that there is indirect election at any post of the government, there is lesser power given to the post or house here. So in the Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha almost have the same power, but there are some power which is not in the hands of Rajya Sabha and we have given it to the Lok Sabha. Why? Because Lok Sabha is a directly elected body and it represents the people. The people have chosen their representatives themselves. So the Lok Sabha has more power than the Rajya Sabha. In case of money bill, if we see the money bill, it is initiated in the Lok Sabha. The Rajya Sabha has no role to play in case of money bill. It cannot initiate, it cannot reject, it cannot amend. It has to only suggest some recommendation or has to accept it. So in case of money bill, we see that there is no power to the Rajya Sabha. So here we can say that Rajya Sabha power are somewhat limited in case of Lok Sabha. So Lok Sabha has more power than Rajya Sabha in terms of some areas, because it is an indirect body and the people have not directly elected them. Okay. Now, when I talk about the methods of election, so we have two criterias on the basis of which we can elect members. First is that we take the entire country and we take all the states that we have in the country and we imagine that all the states of the country have the same population, and every person will have same representation. Okay, what do I mean by that? That equal representation, okay, would be there. Okay, no matter what is the population, if I say that Uttar Pradesh and Sikkim, then I'll have equal representation from the Uttar Pradesh also and from the Sikkim also. This criteria is followed in the USA system. Okay, in the USA, every state in USA has equal representation, which means that every state in USA appoints one person to be as a representative for the entire state. Okay, the second case, if we see, the second case is that proportional representation. Second case is of proportional representation. It means that if the population is higher, the representation will be higher. Okay, it means that, for example, the population of Uttar Pradesh is 24 crores and the population of Sikkim is around 7 lakhs. Okay, so here the representation of Uttar Pradesh will be higher, so that every section, every society of Uttar Pradesh can be represented in the Rajya Sabha, whereas Sikkim, which has a lesser population of 7 lakh, will be having less representatives, so that they can be proportionally represented in the Rajya Sabha. So, as we can see that Uttar Pradesh has 24 crores and it is a large population, and Sikkim is a state with a lesser population, so there should be more representative to represent the state. Okay, so we have not chosen this criteria, we have chosen proportional representation, so that it should be just the representation from in the states should be just in nature. So we have chosen the proportional representation system, where we have given the the power of, if the population is more, the representation will be more. For example, if Uttar Pradesh, as I told you, has 24 crore population, we have given 31 seats in Uttar Pradesh for the representation of that. In case of Sikkim, when I say that the population is 7 lakh, we have given it 1 seat. Now, if we have chosen the first criteria and we have given the Uttar Pradesh 1 seat, it would not be able to represent itself as it is represented by Sikkim. Okay. Now, if we see the parliament, so the parliament, as I told you, as a legislature, its basic function is to make laws. But parliament is more than making laws. It is not merely a body to make laws. It has more functions to it. It is the center of all democratic processes. It is packed with activities like protests, demonstrations, concerns, cooperations and walkouts. So we have more to it. Okay? For example, if I say parliament, the first function that we all know is that parliament makes laws. Okay, that is known by all. Okay, what is the second function of the parliament, which is very important, which is the basis of the parliament, is that we have some representatives in the parliament, and when the representatives are in the power in the parliament, they are also accountable to the people, to the citizens of India. So what does parliament do? Parliament holds representatives accountable. How they are accountable? The representatives have to answer the questions to of the public. Okay, so when, for example, a representatives is standing for an election in some constituency, and he has promised the people to fulfill some of the criteria, some of the basic things, that when he'll come into power, he'll bring the change in the society. So when he comes into the power, when he is a representative in the Lok Sabha, now when he is not fulfilling the promises that he had made in the past to the people for the elections, to win the elections, now the public can ask him the question, now he is answerable to them. Okay, now he has to answer the questions that are raised at him, has to answer the question that why he has bought a policy which is like so and so. So he is answerable to the general public, he is answerable to the uh, entire public, entire citizen of the country. So the parliament, the second feature of the parliament is that it holds the representatives accountable, the representatives are answerable to the public. Okay, so this is the second function which makes the parliament important. Okay, this is the basis of representation here. Now I have talked about Rajya Sabha. The next house, if I come to the next house of the parliament, which is the Lok Sabha. The Lok Sabha firstly is directly elected. Okay, it is directly elected. It means that people directly represent, directly elects the representatives that sit in the Lok Sabha. So the entire country, how the elections of Lok Sabha is held, the entire country of the India, the entire country is divided. The country is divided into territorial constituencies. The entire country is divided into territorial constituencies, and each constituencies roughly have equal population. So, for example, that we have India. So we have different constituencies here. We have made different constituencies, and we have made sure that each constituency that we have equal representation, have equal population, so that the vote value of every constituency is same. The vote value of every constituency, of every representative is same. Okay, if I come here, okay. Okay. The entire country is divided into territorial constituencies roughly having equal population. So the country is divided into territorial constituencies which have almost equal populations, and one representative is elected from each constituencies through universal adult suffrage. Universal adult suffrage, as I have told you earlier also, it means that if a person who has attained the age of 18 has right to vote. Okay. So the elections are done through universal adult suffrage, and the vote value of every individual would be equal to another, which means everybody have the same vote value to the another. At present we have 543 constituencies, which means that we have 543 representatives at the Lok Sabha, and it has not changed since 1971 consensus. So the seats that are in the Lok Sabha, which is 543, has not changed since 1971. Okay. So the period of Lok Sabha is for 5 years, which is maximum. Why maximum? Because it is not important that it has to be, it is permanently 5 years. The period could be terminated before the completion of 5 years, which means that, for example, if a party is not able to get the majority in the parliament, or the coalition government is not able to prove the majority, then the Lok Sabha can be dissolved. The other case could be if the Prime Minister requests the President to dissolve the Lok Sabha and to get new fresh elections of the Lok Sabha, then it is also can be done. So our Lok Sabha can be dissolved before the completion of the 5 years term. So the 5 years term is the maximum, and after that we have new elections for the Lok Sabha. Okay. Here we have seen. So what does the parliament do? What is the work of the parliament? As I have told you that it makes laws, it holds the representatives accountable. There are more works of the parliament. The first is legislative functions of parliament, in which the actual task of drafting a bill is performed by the bureaucracy under the supervision of minister concerned. Okay, now the bills that I have told you, that the parliament drafts bill, and which in turns become law by the assent of president. Okay, now the bill is drafted, is made by the uh, cabinet, okay, by the ministry which is responsible for it, and uh, wait, the substance and even the timing of the bill are decided by the cabinet. So cabinet is the smaller circle in the parliament with special portfolios. The ministers which have special portfolios are in the cabinet, and they have the actual task of drafting the bill and bringing to the parliament. So, no major bill is introduced in the parliament without the approval of cabinet. So, the approval of cabinet is first and foremost requirement for bringing the bill into the parliament. The members other than the minister can also introduce the bill, but these have no chance being passed without the support of the government. So, whatever the bill that comes in the parliament has to get the support of the government. Okay, even if the bill comes from the cabinet, there has to be the support of the government. What is the next function? The next function is the control of executive and ensuring the accountability. Okay. The vital function of the parliament is to ensure that the executive does not overstep its authority and remains responsible to the people who have elected them. So, as I have told you, that the second function of the parliament is that it holds the representatives accountable. Okay. The first function, as I have told you, the bill has to get support of the government. Okay. The second is the representatives are accountable. Okay, the executive is accountable to the parliament. Okay. The third function is the financial function. Okay. The financial function, it is about spending the money. Okay, it is about spending the money. How the money is spent, on what matters it has to be spent, it is decided by the government. Okay. The government raises resources through taxation. However, in a democracy, legislature controls taxation in the way in which the money is used by the government. Okay, now we have seen the government uh, decides where the money has to spend, and it has all the financial resources. So, it is the duty of the government to raise resource through the taxation. So, it is the financial function of the government that it will uh, control the expenditure of the money as well. The purpose to introduce any new tax, it has to get the approval of the Lok Sabha. So, in terms of a new tax is approved, it has to get the support of the Lok Sabha. Okay, when I told you that the money bill can only be initiated in the Lok Sabha, I was actually talking about this. Okay, so there is no role for Rajya Sabha in case of any money bill that is presented in the parliament. Only the Lok Sabha can initiate it, only the Lok Sabha can approve it, and it has to have the support of the government. Okay. So, financial powers of the parliament involve the grant of resources to the government to implement its program. So, why do the government needs money? It needs money so that it can implement the programs it has made for the public, for the general public. The government has to give account to the legislature about the money it has spent and resources that wishes to raise. So, the executive in the parliament has to give the account, has to give all the references of the money that it has spent. Okay. The legislature also ensures that the government does not misspend or overspend. It is done through the budget or the financial statement, annual financial statement. So, what does the government do? It brings out the budget that will tell you what are the amount is allocated to the programs of the government, and it gives the whole detail of the expenditure that it will make or it has done. So, what is the function of legislature? It checks that the government has not misspent or overspent its resources on the public. Okay, and whatever it has promised is given to the public. Okay. Next, we come to the powers of Rajya Sabha. So, we have seen somewhat powers of the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and in the NCERT there is a distinction between the powers of the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha that we'll see here. So, as we have seen that the laws in the Lok Sabha, the laws, it makes laws on matters included in the union list, concurrent list. Okay, so the union government has power to make laws that, on the subjects that are mentioned in the union list and in the concurrent list. Okay. In case of Rajya Sabha, it considers and approves non-money bills. So whatever the bills that are there in the parliament which are non-money bills, okay, it has power to approve it and suggest amendments to the bill. It suggests the amendments to the money bills. It can only suggest, it can only send the recommendation, it can only send the suggestions, but it cannot do any major changes in the money bill. Okay, coming on to the powers of Lok Sabha, it approves the proposal for taxation. So the financial matters are mostly in the hand of Lok Sabha. The budgets, the annual financial statements are all done in the Lok Sabha. It approves the constitutional amendments. So the constitutional amendments, whatever the amendments are done in the constitution, can be approved by the Rajya Sabha. It has no power regarding the budgets or the money bill. Okay. The Lok Sabha controls the executive by asking questions, supplementary questions, resolution, motions, and through no confidence motion as well. So, as I have told you, the representatives are accountable, they are held accountable by the parliament. So, how they are held accountable? By asking questions. They can ask the representative, the executive, the questions, the supplementary question. It can also pass no confidence motion where the people, where the representative have to prove their majority in the parliament. Okay, so they can be held accountable by these functions. Coming on to the Rajya Sabha, exercises control over executive by asking questions and introducing motions and resolution. So it has the same function. It can also be Rajya Sabha can also ask questions to the representatives in case of holding them accountable. It can amend the constitution. Okay, approves the proclamation of emergency in case of any emergency that has to be proclaimed. So the approval of cabinet is also important in the case of Lok Sabha. Okay. It elects the president and vice president and removes judges of Supreme Court and High Court. So when we were reading the previous chapter of executive, we have seen that what is the role of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha in the elections of the president and the vice president and how the judges are removed. So we have seen the importance of powers of Lok Sabha in case of in the previous chapter as well. Okay, it participates in the election of the and the removal of president, vice president, judges of Supreme Court, High Court. It can alone initiate the procedure for removal of vice president. So as we know that the vice president is the uh, chairman of the Rajya Sabha, so it can also initiate the procedure for removal of the vice president itself. See, we have seen the importance of the powers and importance of Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha in the previous chapter in detail, how the president and the vice president and the judges of the Supreme Court are impacted by the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. We have seen it earlier. It also establishes committees and commissions and considers their reports. So the committees and commissions debate on the bill that is drafted in the parliament, and there we have deliberate discussions on the bills that are passed by the committees and commissions, and reports are given then. Can give the union parliament power to make laws on matters included in the state list. So whatever the matters, whatever the subjects are there in the state list, the Rajya Sabha can give power to the union government to make laws on them as well. Okay. Now coming on to the special powers of Rajya Sabha, as you know that Rajya Sabha is an institutional mechanism which provides representation of the states. So now we have seen that Rajya Sabha, which is the council of state, it means that every state of India can get their representation at the parliament at the central level. So we have Rajya Sabha. Okay, it is an instrument where we can see the representation of every state of our country. Okay. The purpose to protest and powers of the state. Purpose to protect and the powers of the state. Therefore, any matter that that affects the state must be referred to it for the consent and approval. So, as it has the power of the state, the consent and approval is also important from the Rajya Sabha. Thus, if a union parliament wishes to remove a matter from the state list over which the state legislature can make law, to either the union or current list in the interest of nation, the approval of Rajya Sabha is necessary. Okay, so there are some cases, as we have seen, we have three lists: union list, state list and concurrent list. So if there are sub-subjects in the state list and the union wants to make laws on that, so what can Rajya Sabha do? Rajya Sabha gives the approval to make laws on that matter. Okay. So here is the role of Rajya Sabha is important. It has to give the union power. It can give the union power the power to make laws on the state list. This provision adds the strength to the Rajya Sabha. However, experience shows that the member of Rajya Sabha represent their parties more than they represent the states. Okay, so it is said that the Rajya Sabha is more, it represents more the parties than the state. Okay, here the powers exercised only by the Rajya Sabha, then and there are powers that are only the Lok Sabha exercises. The Rajya Sabha cannot initiate, reject, amend money bill. The Council of Ministers is responsible to the Lok Sabha and not the Rajya Sabha. Therefore, the Rajya Sabha can criticize the government but cannot remove it. So, as I have told you, the powers of Rajya Sabha is quite limited in terms of if we compare it to the Lok Sabha. Why? Because firstly it is indirectly elected and Lok Sabha has the major power. Lok Sabha has the ruling government mostly. So the power of Rajya Sabha is limited in terms of money bill. If we have seen here that the Rajya Sabha cannot initiate and reject or amend any money bill. Okay, the next is that the Council of Ministers is only responsible to the Lok Sabha. It does not have any uh, relation with the Rajya Sabha. So Rajya Sabha only can criticize the government, but it has no power in case of the removal of the government. Okay. So why? The answer is here itself. The Rajya Sabha is elected by the MLAs and not directly by the people. Therefore, the constitution stopped short of giving certain powers to the Rajya Sabha. Because the Rajya Sabha is indirectly elected, it is not elected by the people but by the MLAs. So the constitution have not given it certain powers. It have given it to the Lok Sabha and not to the Rajya Sabha. Okay. Why? Because we wanted the people to have the final authority. Okay, the logic, the representatives directly elected by the people should have crucial powers of removing the government and controlling the finances and not the Rajya Sabha. So we have ultimate powers to the Lok Sabha and we have lesser powers given to the Rajya Sabha because it is indirectly elected and not elected by the people, and the constitution wants to give more power to the authorities that are directly made by people. Hence we see that the Rajya Sabha do not have certain special powers that are with the Lok Sabha. Okay. In all of the spheres, including the passing of non-money bills and constitutional amendments and impeaching the president and removing the vice president, the powers of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha are co-equal. So there are some cases where we see that the powers of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha are equal when it comes to the elections of the president and removing of the vice president. Here we see that the powers of the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha are almost same. Okay. So that's it for the video, and in the next class I'll be telling you about how the bill is drafted in the parliament, what are the kinds of bill that we see here, and we'll have a discussion, a detailed discussion about the parliament more. I think you are clear with the video, and thank you for the video.